If you've shopped for an Apple laptop recently, then you've probably come across MacBook Neo, MacBook Air, and MacBook Pro. Two of those models come in a variety of colors. The Neo comes in dark blue, green, pink, and silver, while the Air comes in light blue, light gold, dark gray, and silver. But for some reason, MacBook Pro doesn't come in any colors at all, only dark gray and silver, which is kind of odd considering it's the most expensive model. So why is this? Well, the biggest reason is that Apple doesn't think pro users really care about aesthetics. They've actually learned this the hard way two different times, with the Power Mac G4 Cube in 2000 and the cylindrical Mac Pro in 2013. Both products prioritized appearance over functionality. The G4 Cube was beautiful, fanless, and small. But professionals at the time needed PCI expansion slots for things like SCSI cards, additional audio interfaces, and video capture hardware. Leaving those out in the name of miniaturization made the G4 Cube a poor value compared to the more capable and affordable G4 Tower. Apple ended up selling a total of 150,000 G4 Cubes, which was pretty disappointing compared to the estimated 700,000 G4 Towers sold during the same period. After just 1 year of production, the Power Mac G4 Cube was discontinued. 12 years later, in 2013, Apple made a similar mistake with the Mac Pro by ditching the traditional tower form factor and using a compact cylindrical enclosure instead. Phil Schiller famously said this after revealing it.
Can't innovate anymore, my ass.
And it's true that Apple did a lot of innovating to create this machine, but they were innovations that very few pro users wanted. Its smaller size meant smaller thermal capacity, which often led to performance throttling. And there was very little space for internal expansion, which was one of the biggest selling points of Mac Pro in the first place. Professional users who needed to add PCIe cards or multiple GPUs or specialized hardware were forced to attach external Thunderbolt peripherals. This quickly cluttered a user's work area and made the entire setup difficult to move around a studio. And you know, I had a similar problem when using my MacBook Pro to record videos, since I have to attach a teleprompter, a camera, an external drive, and an external display. My MacBook Pro doesn't even have enough ports to plug them all in, which is why I use this Anker Prime Thunderbolt 5 docking station. Anker is a channel partner, but this is the best performing USB hub I've ever used. A big reason why is its Thunderbolt 5 support, which the M4 or M5 MacBook Pro with the Pro or Max chips can take advantage of. It delivers 120 gigabit per second bandwidth, which is 3 times faster than Thunderbolt 4. So if you're moving a huge 150 gigabyte 8K video file, it'll take just 25 seconds with this dock. It also eliminates your adapter mess with this 14-in-1 connectivity. You get 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports, HDMI 2.0, DisplayPort 2.0, and even a 2.5 gigabit per second Ethernet port. It essentially replaces every adapter on your desk with a single cable that also delivers 140 watts of high-speed charging. But what I really love about the Anker Prime is the built-in power supply. Most docks come with a huge power brick that has to go on or under your desk, but Anker integrated it inside the unit, which not only keeps your desktop clean, but actually makes it portable. And to maintain performance during heavy use, there's an intelligent cooling system inside. It uses a U-shaped air duct and active fans that stay surprisingly quiet, keeping the surface temperature below 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius, even when you're using dual displays at full power. On the desk, Anker Prime's compact aluminum design looks really good alongside the MacBook Pro, and its interactive ambient lighting is a nice touch. Plus, there's an Anker Dock Manager app to handle firmware updates with just a tap. So if you want to maximize your MacBook Pro's performance, or just clean up your desk with an aesthetic dock upgrade, check out the Anker Prime TB5 by tapping the link in the comments. Now in 2019, Apple reverted back to the tower form factor for Mac Pro. It may not have been as pretty as the cylindrical model, but it was far more practical and functional. And that's a big reason why the MacBook Pro doesn't come in colors. Certain industries where those laptops are used heavily discourage or even ban bright colors, like on film and TV sets or during live performances, where colorful equipment can be distracting and even accidentally appear in the reflection of mirrors or glass. Most production gear, like monitors, microphones, cameras, and cables, are silver or black, and the same applies to their laptops. But what if you're an office worker who's free to have whatever color computer you want? Well, then it's worth talking about the demographics of customers who most often buy MacBook Pros. Apple makes computers for two different types of people. everyday casual users, and professionals. This has been the case going back to 1997 when Steve Jobs returned to the company with a simplified product strategy, where they'd make a desktop and laptop for casual use and 2 additional models for professional use. The reason why Apple couldn't make one computer to satisfy both markets is because their needs were completely different. Everyday users wanted something small, light, personal, and most of all, affordable. But people who use their computer as a tool for work wanted something powerful, capable, and functional. It wasn't possible to make a small, affordable computer that also delivered industry-leading performance. So Apple ended up making the iMac and iBook for casual users, and then the Power Mac G3 and PowerBook G3 for pros. Apple took a unique approach when designing these computers, offering not only the consumer models in bright fun colors, but also the pro-level desktop, which went from being a beige box to a bright blue translucent tower. Many people thought it was an improvement, but there were complaints. One reviewer wrote, "The new blue and white Power Mac G3 has a stunning appearance, although some may say Apple has gone too far in using these colors on a professional computer." Later on, they added, "It looks a bit gaudy." It may come as no surprise that the reviewer was a man. According to a 2001 study of 500 girls and 150 boys ages 15 to 18, 85% of girls and 87% of boys proficiently used computers and the internet, but girls were 5 times less likely to consider technology-related studies or careers. And in the 25 years since then, not much has changed. In 2025, only 28% of computing roles in the US were held by women, and that absolutely has an effect on how computers for those customers are designed. If a product's target demographic is over 70% male, it's probably not going to be made in colors that are considered feminine. Apple responded to complaints about the Power Mac G3 by releasing an updated model just 7 months later. The bright blue and white design was replaced by a neutral bluish and gray called Graphite, which was more well received by customers. During the same period, Apple's Pro laptop was never offered in anything other than black, although that would change a couple years later in 2001 with the release of the titanium PowerBook G4. It was the first model with a metal enclosure instead of plastic, and Apple made a big deal out of this.
This is an incredible material. It's stronger than steel, yet lighter than aluminum. It's unbelievable. And this isn't, IBM's talked about titanium, but they just throw a little titanium powder into the plastic. It's nothing. This is real commercial grade titanium metal, like they build airplanes out of.
But what Jobs failed to mention was that the titanium was painted silver, while the carbon fiber frame and hinge were painted white. Since neither material held paint very well, the enclosure was prone to chipping. There were also issues with weak Wi-Fi reception since the titanium interfered with its wireless signals. So 2 years later, Apple updated the PowerBook with an all-aluminum design, and Jobs made it clear that the metal was anodized this time instead of painted.
We built it out of a new material. After researching everything, the best material to build this out of was an aircraft-grade aluminum alloy. It's beautiful, and it's hard anodized and not painted.
Reception to the all-aluminum PowerBook was overwhelming. It was released at the beginning of 2003 and led to a record 530,000 unit sales that year, and it set a new record every subsequent year until it was replaced by the MacBook Pro in 2006. That sent a clear message to Apple. Customers loved the anodized aluminum design, so they continued using it for MacBook Pro. Behind the scenes, Apple was doubling down on the material by developing a manufacturing technique that could sculpt a seamless unibody chassis from a single block of aluminum. This unibody design made its first appearance in late 2008 with the MacBook Pro and was eventually used for the MacBook Air. Customers appreciated the premium feel of a seamless all-metal laptop, but grew tired of the same silver color year after year. The iPod Nano was available in colorful aluminum designs. Why couldn't Apple do that with a MacBook? Part of the reason was laptops were used much differently than music players back then, or even iPhones today. Customers expect computers to last longer and be more durable. Painted anodized aluminum is strong on a flat surface, but is prone to chipping on a 90-degree edge, since it's difficult for the paint to adhere properly. We saw this most recently with the iPhone 17 Pro, the first model with a camera bump made from painted anodized aluminum, and customers quickly found out how easy it was to chip. 3 years ago, the painted Midnight MacBook Pro also had this problem. So Apple's fear of making a colorful aluminum MacBook were legitimate, but eventually they relented. In 2015, the 12-inch MacBook came in gold, with a rose gold color the following year. Recently, there have been a starlight and sky blue MacBook Air, but the MacBook Pro has only ever come in silver, space gray, and space black. The final reason for this is logistics. The more configurations a product has, the more complicated and expensive it'll be to manufacture. That's why the two models that come in colors, MacBook Neo and iMac, are the least configurable out of the entire lineup, while the most configurable models, MacBook Pro and Mac Studio, don't come in colors. So while it might be nice to have a pink or green MacBook Pro, Apple's calculated that the cost of adding those additional color options likely isn't worth the payoff. This is Greg with Apple Explained. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.